In the city of Technopolis, there existed a startup founder named Alexius. His company, Eudaimonia Tech, was on the brink of revolutionizing the way people interacted with technology, promising to enhance the well-being of its users. Alexius, a modern-day practitioner of Stoicism, often found solace in the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, especially during tumultuous times. His closest confidant was Helena, the company's chief ethicist who shared his passion for Stoicism and his vision for a company that could succeed without compromising its moral compass. Together, they navigated the fierce waters of the tech industry, holding fast to the idea that virtue was the sole good and that external events were beyond their control. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the city, Alexius received an encrypted message from a mysterious figure known only as Morpheus. This figure offered Alexius a contract that would secure a significant investment, but it was tinged with illegality. Morpheus was known to have ties with the darker side of the tech world, often engaging in unethical practices to get ahead. With Eudaimonia Tech's finances dwindling and the pressure to succeed mounting, Alexius agreed to meet Morpheus at a clandestine location. Helena, upon learning of this meeting, felt a sense of foreboding. "Why do you seek what is not in our control, Alexius?" Helena questioned as they walked through the quiet city park, their footsteps echoing the turmoil within. "Wealth is indifferent. It is neither good nor bad, but its pursuit may lead us away from virtue." Alexius, his forehead creased with worry, replied, "I am aware, Helena. But is it not our duty to ensure the survival of our company? The good we can do with such resources would be immeasurable." "Remember the words of Epictetus," Helena cautioned. "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. We should focus on what we can control and maintain our integrity. To do otherwise would be to betray ourselves." Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound Stoic wisdom. Their conversation was interrupted as they arrived at the shadowed meeting place. Morpheus was a silhouette against the dim light of the fading day. "Alexius," he began, his voice smooth as silk, "this contract will bring you riches beyond your wildest dreams, but you must be willing to take a risk, to bend the rules." Alexius felt the weight of the decision in his heart. He looked towards Helena, her eyes a silent plea to remember their principles. The deal was simple, yet perilous. Eudaimonia Tech would implement a backdoor into their software, allowing Morpheus to access sensitive user data. In exchange, Morpheus would inject a vast sum of money into the company under the guise of a legitimate investment. The internal struggle was evident on Alexius's face. He thought of his employees, his dream, and the promise of success. Yet, a voice within whispered of virtue, of the right path that was often the hardest to tread. The night grew colder as Alexius grappled with the choice before him. It was then that an unexpected event occurred. A figure, cloaked in the anonymity of the dark, approached them. It was Diogenes, an old mentor of Alexius, once a high-flying executive who had renounced his wealth to live a life of simplicity. "Alexius," Diogenes spoke, his voice carrying the weight of experience, "I have seen the corruption of wealth and the emptiness it brings. Do not let the glitter of gold blind you to the true treasures you possess, your integrity, your friendships, and your inner peace." The words struck Alexius like a bolt from Zeus himself. He turned to Morpheus, his resolve hardened by the Stoic wisdom that had guided him thus far. "Morpheus, our conversation is at an end," Alexius declared. "Eudaimonia Tech will not compromise its values for wealth. We will find another way, one that aligns with our principles." Morpheus's shadow seemed to grow darker, his disappointment palpable. "You are making a grave mistake, Alexius, but so be it. I will find another who is more accommodating." As Morpheus disappeared into the night, Helena placed a hand on Alexius's shoulder. "You chose well, my friend. The path of virtue is never easy, but it is always right." With the crisis averted, Alexius and Helena returned to Eudaimonia Tech, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had upheld their Stoic beliefs. The triumph of virtue. In the weeks following the encounter with Morpheus, the financial situation at Eudaimonia Tech became increasingly dire. Alexius and Helena faced the daunting task of securing funds without compromising their values. The team worked tirelessly, optimizing their software and reaching out to ethical investors who shared their vision for a better world. Alexius often found himself at his desk long after the city had surrendered to the night, pondering the Stoic teachings that had become his beacon in these dark times. He recalled the words of Seneca, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." During this period of uncertainty, Alexius received an invitation to speak at a prestigious technology conference. It was an opportunity to present Eudaimonia Tech's vision and potentially attract the right kind of investment. Alexius, with Helena's encouragement, accepted the invitation. The day of the conference arrived and Alexius took the stage, his presence commanding the attention of the audience. He spoke not only of the technical achievements of their software but of the company's commitment to the greater good, to the pursuit of eudaimonia, human flourishing. Alexius's passion resonated with the crowd, stirring a sense of hope and admiration. His words echoed the Stoic belief that true wealth lay in character and wisdom, not in coins and contracts. As Alexius concluded his speech, a hush fell over the audience, followed by a thunderous applause. Among the audience was a philanthropic investor named Cato, who was deeply moved by the integrity and resolve of the Eudaimonia Tech team. Cato approached Alexius with a proposition that would secure the future of the company without any ethical compromise. Cato's investment was not only financial, but also came with guidance and connections to other like-minded individuals. With this support, Eudaimonia Tech grew, not as a monument to wealth, but as a testament to the power of virtue. Helena and Alexius often reflected on the journey they had undertaken, marveling at how close they had come to losing themselves in the pursuit of riches. They had faced their adversity with stoic resolve, focusing on what they could control and accepting what they could not. The company thrived, and its success was measured not in the wealth it accumulated, but in the positive impact it had on the lives of its users and the happiness of its employees. As the story of Eudaimonia Tech unfolded, a profound Stoic lesson emerged. Wealth is not an inherent good. It is a preferred indifferent. It is the manner in which wealth is pursued and used that determines its value. Alexius and Helena demonstrated that by adhering to virtue and wisdom, one could achieve a form of success that was both ethical and enduring. The true measure of wealth lies not in the abundance of possessions but in the scarcity of desires. By embracing Stoic principles, Alexius and Helena found contentment and prosperity not through riches, but through their commitment to the greater good. The story of Alexius and Helena serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of wealth should never overshadow the pursuit of virtue. In the end, it is not wealth that defines our worth, but our character and the choices we make in the face of moral challenges. The second story, the Resolve of Androcles. In the heart of the ancient city of Virtus, there lived a man of humble means named Androcles. His life was simple, He owned little but the small abode he inherited from his parents and the threadbare clothes on his back. Androcles was content, for he found wealth in the pages of the Stoic philosophers he read by the light of a flickering candle each night. His friend, Cassius, a merchant wealthy in coin but poor in spirit, often visited Androcles. Cassius marveled at Androcles' tranquility despite his meager lifestyle. "Androcles," Cassius would exclaim, "why do you not strive for wealth? You are wise and capable. Surely you do not prefer this pauper's life." Androcles would smile, a warm and genuine expression. "My dear Cassius, have you not read Seneca? True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. I have food to eat, a roof over my head, and philosophy to nourish my soul. What more do I truly need?" Cassius, however, found Androcles' perspective quaint but unrealistic. He devised a scheme to entice Androcles with the allure of riches. Cassius introduced him to Lucius, a man of questionable character who promised a foolproof plan to acquire wealth rapidly. The plan involved deceitful practices, exploiting the misfortunes of others for profit. Temptation tugged at Androcles' cloak, his mind wrestling with the prospect of a life without the constant gnaw of hunger and the chill of winter's bite. He considered the good he could do with such wealth, the family he could raise, and the security he could feel. The city of Virtus was abuzz with the drama of a wealthy patrician who had misplaced a chest of gold. Lucius's plan was simple. They would find the chest, for Lucius knew of its whereabouts, and keep the wealth for themselves rather than return it to its rightful owner. "Androcles," Lucius hissed like a serpent coiled in the grass, "think of the power and comfort you will wield with this gold. No more will you be at the mercy of the elements or the scorn of those who see you as less." Androcles' heart felt heavy, a ship caught in a storm, sails torn between the gales of temptation and the pull of his moral compass. He walked the streets of Virtus, watching the daily struggles and joys of its citizens, seeking counsel from the wisdom that had long guided him. The night before the planned deceit, Androcles visited the Forum, where the Stoic philosopher, Cato, was speaking. "Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become," Cato proclaimed, "and the same is true of fame." The words struck Androcles like a thunderbolt from Zeus. He returned home, his mind a whirling tempest, yet at its eye was a stillness, a decision formed by the tenets of his Stoic beliefs. The next day, Androcles met with Lucius and Cassius. "I have made my choice," Androcles said, his voice calm in the midst of his internal storm. "I will not partake in this scheme. I would rather live a life of poverty than one of opulence tainted by dishonor." Lucius scoffed, and Cassius's face fell with disappointment. "Then you will always be nothing more than you are now," Lucius spat, turning on his heel and disappearing into the crowd. Cassius lingered, a frown creasing his brow. "Androcles, are you certain? This may be your only chance to rise above your station." Androcles placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Cassius, it is not our station in life that defines us, but our actions and the content of our character. I choose virtue over vice, tranquility over turmoil." The unseen fortune. Days turned into weeks, and the story of the lost chest of gold faded into whispers on the streets of Virtus. Androcles returned to his simple life, seemingly untouched by the ordeal, his heart lightened by his decision to uphold virtue. Cassius, however, found himself haunted by Androcles' choice. The seed of Stoicism that Androcles had planted began to sprout within him, and he started to question the very foundations of his wealth. In a turn of fate, The patrician who had lost the chest of gold announced a reward for its return, a reward that far exceeded the value of the gold itself. It was a test of virtue for the citizens of Virtus, a test that Lucius had failed as he was caught attempting to flee the city with the chest. The patrician, a student of philosophy himself, wished to find the one person in Virtus who valued honesty over avarice. Cassius saw an opportunity for redemption. He approached Androcles with a proposition to find the chest using Lucius's information and return it to its rightful owner. Androcles, guided by wisdom, agreed, seeing the chance to restore not only the patrician's fortune, but also the moral fabric of Virtus itself. Together, they retrieved the chest and presented it to the patrician, who was both surprised and delighted by their honesty. The patrician, true to his word, offered them the reward, but Androcles refused. "We did not return the chest for gold, but to do what is right," he said. The patrician, moved by Androcles' integrity, insisted on bestowing upon him a different kind of reward, a position as an advisor, a role that would allow Androcles to spread his Stoic wisdom throughout Virtus. Androcles accepted, recognizing the chance to enrich the lives of others, not through material wealth, but through the wealth of virtue. Cassius, witnessing the respect and honor afforded to Androcles, realized the profound impact of Stoic philosophy. In time, he too adopted its principles, shifting his focus from accumulating wealth to bettering himself and his community. The people of Virtus came to know Androcles not for the riches he could have had, but for the richness of his character. His life was a testament to the idea that wealth lies not in the clinking of coins, but in the harmony of the soul. The Stoic lesson. The tale of Androcles teaches us that the value of wealth is not in its possession, but in its rightful use and the intention behind its pursuit. Stoicism reminds us that integrity, virtue, and wisdom are the true measures of a rich life. The pursuit of wealth, when guided by these principles, can lead to prosperity of the soul and the betterment of society. It is not wealth itself that is worthy of pursuit, but the virtues that enrich our character and elevate our humanity. True wealth is found in a life lived with purpose, guided by virtue and aligned with the common good. The third story, the shadow of greed. In a metropolis of commerce and cunning, there lived a man named Gaius. His reputation was tainted by the dark strokes of deceit and manipulation, his wealth built upon the ruins of those he had swindled. Gaius was no stranger to the underbelly of the market, where fortunes were made and lost at the roll of dice loaded with treachery. His closest associate in these endeavors was a sharp-witted woman named Valeria. Together they concocted complex schemes, each more daring than the last, to siphon the wealth of the city's elite into their coffers. Their partnership was one of convenience, not of trust, for in the game they played, trust was a liability. One evening, as they counted their latest takings in the dim light of Gaius's opulent study, Valeria posed a question that pricked at the edges of his conscience. "Tell me, Gaius," she said, her eyes glinting like the coins they hoarded, "do you ever question whether our riches are worth the souls we trade for them?" Gaius scoffed, letting the gold run through his fingers like grains of sand. "My dear Valeria, our souls are of our own making. The world is ours to take, and those who cannot hold on to their wealth do not deserve it." Yet, as the nights grew longer and the weight of his coffers heavier, Gaius found himself haunted by Valeria's question. It echoed through his dreams, where the faces of those he had wronged twisted into specters of accusation. Seeking distraction, Gaius attended a lecture at the city's philosophy hall, where a Stoic named Antonius spoke of virtue and the nature of true wealth. "Wealth without virtue is poverty of the soul," Antonius declared, his voice resonating in the marble chamber. "The richest man may stand in the ruins of his spirit and find himself poorer than the beggar who possesses self-control." These words struck a chord in Gaius, a dissonant note that reverberated through the carefully constructed melody of his life. He left the hall feeling unsettled, a feeling that grew as the days passed. The tipping point came when Gaius and Valeria orchestrated a plot to ruin a rival, a man known for his fair dealings and generous heart. The plot was intricate and cruel, set to leave the man penniless and disgraced. As they laid the final trap, Gaius caught sight of himself in a polished bronze mirror. The man staring back was a stranger, his eyes hollow, his soul a shadow. Gaius turned to Valeria, his voice barely a whisper. "Is this who we are? Are we so blinded by greed that we no longer see the cost of our wealth?" Valeria regarded him with a coldness that chilled his bones. "This is who we've always been, Gaius. Do not falter now, not when we are on the brink of our greatest triumph." That night, Gaius lay awake, the words of Antonius swirling in his mind, a tempest that threatened to tear apart the very foundations of his life. The price of virtue. Gaius spent days wandering the city, lost in thought, the Stoics' words a constant murmur in his ears. He saw the faces of those he'd wronged, heard the silent weeping of lives shattered by his greed. The wealth he had amassed felt like chains rather than the wings he once thought them to be. One day, as he walked through the marketplace, Gaius overheard a conversation between a father and his young son. "Papa, why do we not have fine clothes and a big house like the rich men?" the boy asked, his innocent eyes wide with curiosity. The father knelt so he was eye to eye with his son and replied with a gentle smile, "Because, my son, we have something far more valuable. We have our honor, our love for each other, and the peace that comes from knowing we have done no wrong to gain what little we have." Gaius felt as if struck by a bolt from Zeus himself. The simplicity and truth in the father's words cut deeper than any philosophical argument. He realized that his wealth had brought him no peace, no honor, no love. It had brought only a gnawing emptiness that he had tried to fill with more and more gold. With a heavy heart, Gaius made his decision. He would undo the wrongs he had committed, starting with the rival he and Valeria had plotted against. He went to the man, confessed the entire scheme, and offered his wealth to repair the damage he'd done and to set up a fund for those he had cheated. The man, moved by Gaius's sincerity, agreed to work together to restore what had been lost. Valeria was furious when she heard of Gaius's betrayal. "You fool," she hissed. "You've thrown away everything we've worked for." Gaius looked at her, not with the confidence of a man who had won, but with the calm of one who had been freed. "No, Valeria, I have finally found what is truly worth working for." The unraveling of Gaius's empire was the talk of the city. Some mocked him, others praised him, but all were astonished by the change that had come over the man once known as the shadow of greed. Years passed, and Gaius's life became one of modest means but rich in virtue. He devoted himself to the study and practice of Stoicism, becoming a disciple of Antonius, who had set him on this path. As for Valeria, she disappeared, a ghost of the past, a reminder of the life Gaius had left behind. She could not understand the wealth that Gaius had discovered, one that could not be counted or hoarded, but was infinitely more precious. The Stoic lesson. The story of Gaius teaches us that true wealth is found not in the accumulation of riches, but in the cultivation of virtue. Stoicism shows us that wealth without virtue is an illusion, a trap that ensnares the soul and leads to an impoverished life. It is by aligning ourselves with the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control that we can find peace and fulfillment. The richest individual is not one who has the most, but one who needs the least, who values integrity over indulgence, and who seeks to enrich not only themselves but also the world around them. True wealth is the character we develop and the good we do in service of others.